Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
In accordance with Idaho Code, Section 74206, the board may elect to hold an executive session to consider the evaluation, dismissal, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent or public school student.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Kirsty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Hillary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. So away we go. We will be back. call the meeting to order. We're out of executive session. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do you have a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, and all in favor, Hillary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Kirsty?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay. I just want to say welcome back to Ken Becky. It's so nice to have you here. And welcome back to Michael. Not that he left too far, but it's nice to have us all together here. Let's start with Director Kevin Gifford, celebrating our mask course, hopefully.
Yes, Chairman Nixon and trustees, I'm back with more data.
Yay!
And my point with both this presentation and the benchmark data presentation that we'll do tonight is, Chairman Nixon, if you remember at our ISBA conference with legislators, we heard them tell us we need to do a better job telling our story. Data is data, right? But if you understand the data the correct way, you understand what it means, you can tell the correct story. And there's lots of stories that can be told from each data set. In the United States, we have this National Assessment of Educational Progress, which we call NAEP to keep it short. The NAEP is testing done in both 4th grade and 8th grade. It's testing of language arts and math. It's done independent of the school districts. The school districts don't do the testing. The NAEP organization comes in. They randomly select schools that give them a demographic representation of each state. And they do this every couple of years. It's not every year. So our 4th graders, we had some 4th graders and 8th graders last year that were chosen to participate in the NAEP testing, which we do not get the results back specific to Kuna. We only get the overall aggregate scores of Idaho and other states. But this NAEP testing does tell a story. And in Idaho and other places, especially in Idaho currently, a large portion, I shouldn't say a large portion, some people are using this NAEP data to tell the story that our public schools are failing. And that, if you look at the data in a certain way, there are certain aspects of it that you could maybe make that argument. But that's not the whole story. So I'm here tonight, I want to share the whole story with you of our NAEP testing. And I'll show you one of these reports in a minute. I've got them all linked here so you can look at all of them. I'll show you one of them so you can see what it looks like. But both of our 4th and 8th grade reading scores in both reading and math are higher than the national average in NAEP testing. And here's the part that people leave out. People that use this against public schools will tell you, and we'll show you this in just a minute, that we have not recovered very well completely from the pandemic. We haven't shown as much growth as you would hope to see, which there's truth in that data, right? But what they also then conveniently leave out is the rest of the story. That in Idaho, where we're very frugal in our spending of education, might be 51st in the country, we score 6th highest in the country in 4th grade reading, 5th highest in 4th grade math. This is 4th for both in 8th grade reading and math. That's the part of the story they don't tell. They leave that part out. That even though we have not on this test shown a complete recovery, Idaho, especially for the funding that we receive, is doing great compared to the rest of the country. That's a part of the story we don't usually tell. So if we show the 4th grade math, because we're going to kind of celebrate math a little bit here. Each of these charts will show you, it takes you all the way back to 2000, then it shows you the last 2 years of our testing. And this is your proficiency mark right here, so it shows you how many are above, slightly below, far below. It gives you a scale score, so it's a number on a scale. But you can see from 2000, we have made progress in 4th grade math, 2022, 2024, and here's the national average. So the last year we were slightly above the national average. And then if you'll scroll up so we can see this a little bit, this is the story that people tell. You can see how it's not really progressing. They tell that story, but they leave out this story over here. When you have time to click on this, you can go look at every other state, but we're only lower than 4 other states. That's why I said we're 5th highest. There's only 4 other states that Idaho is lower in 4th grade math. So they conveniently leave out this part of the story oftentimes with our data. So there is a celebration here in our NAEP scores. Our NAEP scores show that in Idaho, we have a good public education return on the investment, even if it's not where we want it to be score-wise all the time.
We have a very good return,
Extremely good.
yeah, on per pupil.
Yes. Okay. If you'll go back to the slide for me. Thank you. So I'm going to leave that here, but you can look 4th and 8th grade. They all look pretty similar. You'll see that similar type of a graph that's kind of flat. In 8th grade, we are a little bit lower than we were in 2022, but for the most part, it's pretty similar. If you'll go to the next slide for me, though, there's a group. The Idaho Ed News published an article, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I can't remember, and it mentioned this education recovery scorecard, and it highlighted 3 other districts. I was kind of jealous because it had a part where it also said the top 3 districts in the state in math, and Kuna was one of them. So they didn't tell that story, so I want to share that with you tonight. But this is a collaborative project between a group in Harvard and a group at Stanford that take the NAEP scores and they combine them together. I read about their mathematical formula, but I can't explain it very well because I'm not a statistician. But they take the proficiency levels and they equate it to grade level. So they look at the lens of how much of an increase or decrease at grade level equivalency. So the data will look a little different here. They have focused specifically starting in 2019 and to 2024. So the beginning of the pandemic, they break it apart into the 2 years of the pandemic and then the 2 years after the pandemic, and then they show you the whole 4-year range as well. And then the interesting thing that they do is they put it on a quadrant, which I'll show you here in just a second, that shows it by free and reduced lunch population, so your socioeconomic status. This is just a snapshot of Kuna overall, but I'll show you the graph in just a second because it will make more sense. This number, I think, is higher this year. I can't remember the exact number. I should have gotten that. But this at the time showed we were about 30% of our students with free and reduced. In math overall, this is the celebration part. The whole year, even in the 2 years of the pandemic, we increased mathematically that combined 4th and 8th grade scores by 0.36 of a grade level. And in the last 2 years, it was over a half of a grade level increase in our math scores. In reading, the story is not quite as nice. We did lose about 1/3 of a grade level overall in those 4-year windows. But the last 2 years after the pandemic, we've flattened off the loss. So we've stabilized is the right word for that, right? So if you'll go into this report, this one's nice because it gives you specific data to Kuna. And there's a lot of different graphs on here, but if you'll go down to page 7, I'll show you this quadrant graph. We'll look at several of them. This is the first 2 years during the pandemic that we're looking at right now. This 0 line right here, this is grade level loss and grade level increase. So that axis right here, you're looking at the grade level change. Across here is the amount of free and reduced population you have in your district. This purple line is our trend line. So what that trend line shows you is that the higher free and reduced population you have, the more opportunity or the more loss in grade level equivalency you had. And then here's the state average right in the middle. So in where Kuna's at right here, in those first 2 years of the pandemic, and this is math, I believe. Yes, this is math. In those first 2 years, in this area here of about 30% free and reduced, you can see all these districts along that 30% line. Kuna was up here. We did lose a little bit in those first, that was the 0.32 loss that we had. But comparatively, we were above the trend line and we were above a lot of other districts in our same boat. Now if you go down a little bit, this is the reading. So reading, similarly, we're below that 0 line, so we did lose a little bit. Same 30% line right here. We're above most of the districts in the same boat as we are. Now, if you look down the next page, this is the 2 years after the pandemic. This is the really good news. This is, again, math. You look at Kuna.
Wow.
We're killing it. according to this graph, right? Not just at our 30%, but there's nobody else that grew 0.52 grade level equivalency in math in Idaho.
Was that across the board, or is that a certain?
That's
group?
their formula where they take the 4th and 8th grade scores and combine them
So they've got
together.
the 4th and 8th.
Yes, so celebration,
No
definitely,
kidding.
of what we're doing with our math work here in Kuna. And then the next one down is reading. So here's where we were a little bit below the trend line. We've flattened out, like I said, we are at that 0 now. We're not losing, we've stabilized, we haven't gone back up yet though in the reading.
But we're ahead of Boise.
We are, it's always a great thing to celebrate
Just want to
for
say
us.
that, make that a point, people.
Nice thing too, with less money.
Yeah,
And we spend
have
a lot less money
a
than
lot
Boise
less money
does.
than Boise. As you say, Middleton.
And then the last page shows you the whole 4-year window. So again, I don't know which district this is, it's a smaller district, but one district that outperformed us in the whole 4-year span. But there's Kuna again, and this is math again, far above the trend line and above all the districts except for that one.
So is that the curriculum we're using that has caused that, or is that teacher?
I believe that's definitely part of it.
Okay.
We have a great partnership with Curriculum Associates. They are fantastic to work with. They don't just sell you the product and then wish you good luck. And then, oh, you need to pay more if you want more. They're the ones, they meet with us twice a year. They bring the data to us. I mean, we look at our data on our own too, but they bring data to us and they help us look at data in ways we haven't thought of that will help to move the kids.
Okay.
So they're a fantastic partner to work with. I see principals nodding their head. So it's been great, a great partnership with them. And then reading is the last one here. You can see Kuna's up here. So again, overall in that 4-year window, we did lose the 0.32 above the trend line in our 30% free and reduced range, a couple ahead of us. But so the reading's not as much of a celebration. It's obviously
Where's
work
our
to do.
adoption on that? Is that something we're looking at?
Yes.
Now is the reading
We
adoption?
I met today with
Okay.
instructional coaches to get our process started for our reading adoption. We'll,
Be interesting to see what Lewiston has and Coeur
It will.
d'Alene to kind of see
yes.
what they're using.
But anyway, I wanted to share this data with you because the story you'll hear in the news media that is anti-public education will only tell part of the story. I wanted you to hear all the rest of the story. Because even though we still have work to do, man, we're working hard and we are doing a lot of the right work. And some of the work we're going to figure out how to change it, obviously, still too. So I wanted to celebrate especially the math because, man, that's, when you see Kuna up there by itself, whoo, that makes me like, whoop, whoop. So.
I'll give you a whoop whoop. Very good.
Anyway, this website has a lot of really great, if you really want to get your data nerd on, you can go to their website and look at it. This is the Kuna report. It pulls out the different demographic groups and all that. You're welcome to look at that. And then this was the Ed News article.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I read the Idaho Ed News, and that's basically
It had
what
Kuna
it said.
listed, one of the 3 districts that grew,
Yeah.
but it didn't highlight us enough.
No, I
So
think the point, yeah, I'm glad you did tonight. I think the whole point is that we do need to tell our story.
we do.
That the public education is making waves, and we are doing things. And I think that you get a big bang for your buck here in Idaho. And I think sometimes maybe we need to make that clear when we go to levies and bonds. That, we need to continue doing what
Right.
we're doing.
And these scores include all students.
Yeah.
All students with disabilities, with language learning, every student is counted in these, so. Anyway,
Any questions?
questions from,
It's great.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gifford.
You might let her stay there, Kevin.
Oh, yeah, we're doing benchmark day the next, did you want a break? Or
good.
do you need some
After
water?
this, you'll have a break, right? Then he's-
All right.
I'll crash after this. So as I promised, today I'm back with our SICA, which stands for Shortened Interim Comprehensive Assessment Test. Basically, a way to think of it as a practice ISAT test. Again, there's data here, we'll look at it, it tells a story, but there's part of the story that you wouldn't understand if I don't explain, so I want to explain a little bit to you. The elementary, we have our iReady Math and we have our iStation, which allows us to test kids regularly to see where they're at. We test them at least monthly. We can also do on-demand testing. So we have a great system of assessing our kids' learning and maintaining it. At the secondary level, we have iReady Math now for 6th, 7th, and 8th. So I shared that data with you last month. It wasn't, that was a month ago, well, not, yeah. But we really don't have a great tool for assessing ongoing assessment with our secondary students. Each of our grades and content area, they do their own testing, so they know how kids are learning, but we don't have a district-wide tool yet to look at that data very well. So we use the SECA, but the SECA has limitations as well. It's not really truly designed to be a test frequently. It has shortened tests in it too that we can take. But this version of it, the Kuna Middle School and our high school math group, they're using it kind of like a benchmark. They took it in the fall and the winter. The high school language arts and Fremont were using it just as a mid-year checkpoint to gear up and get ready to know where they need to teach and the focus for the preparation of ISAT. So we're not using it the same district-wide yet. In our PLC, professional learning community work that we've been doing, this year we've been focused mainly on a guaranteed and viable curriculum. We've been focused on making sure that we have documented what we're going to teach kids, what we want them to know. Next year our focus will shift to how will we know if they've learned, our assessments in other words. So we have work to do. This data will help validate and show that. We have work to do in building a better system for 612 where we can track better the growth of our students. And then we need a better tool, I believe, if we want to really track them more closely. The SECA gives us some great information, but it doesn't give us that monthly look where we can monitor progress of kids' growth as well. So having said that, now let's get into the data. One of the challenges with looking at Fremont's data too is that Synergy has been a part of Fremont School, but now it's a separate school within a school. So their data is separated out. So this is Fremont by itself and Synergy separated out. Last year, this was that whole group combined. So it's not a true apples to apples because I have everybody in one grouping and then it's separated out over here. So I can't separate out last year's very easily because they weren't separated out. The other challenge, I'm showing you right here winter of last year and winter of this year. So I color coded, hopefully you can see this yellowish tannish color here, because these 6th graders were this year's 7th graders. So in some ways it makes more sense to look at the data like this, because this is more of a cohort. They're not exact, some kids have changed, but this is a better comparison this way and this way than it is straight across. But straight across gives you some idea too about your systems overall.
And tell me what blue is?
So yes,
Is that,
it's above.
okay,
So green is the students that are showing proficiency and blue is above that
Oh, okay.
level. Yellow is approaching and red is
Just
I
throw
knew
them
the
all.
other 3 colors, I was.
yes. Yeah, on some of the graphs we just have 2 different shades of
Yeah.
green
Yeah,
and
okay.
this one does the blue.
Okay,
The other challenge that you have to keep in mind is that with Synergy pulled out separately, we're talking about 30 students here and we're talking 150 here. So the sample size also makes a difference. You can see a lot more movement with a smaller group than a bigger group. So just keep that in mind too, because I don't want to send the wrong, inaccurate message. The data again is what it is, but you have to understand all of it. So last year in the winter, we had 29% of our students that were showing that they were likely to be proficient on the ISAT at the end of the year. This year, Fremont separated out by itself, there were about 31%, and the 30 kids in Synergy were at about 52%, showing that they would be likely proficient on the ISAT at the end of the year. The state proficiency average on this same test was about 40%. So it's hard to say, we're probably slightly below overall composite because this is 30 kids and 150 kids, but I don't know exactly what that number would be. Those 6th graders last year, this year, we're at 42% at Fremont, 56. So there's definitely some growth. If you look just all of them and then just Fremont, it's about 13. But again, it's probably higher than 13 because these kids would bring that up slightly at least. But you can see from 6th grade to this year 7th grade, there's been some growth. Different tests though too, so you have to keep that in mind. The state average at this time is 46, so we're kind of split there. And then last year's 7th graders to this year's 8th graders, if you just look at the Fremont part of it, and then everyone combined, it's down a little bit, but this brings it up a little. So I don't know exactly where we're at, probably down a little bit, but I don't know. State average was 41%. So that's where we're at with Fremont. The next slide will show us Kuna Middle School. Like I said, Kuna Middle School, I've got two sets of data here for you. This is like the one I just showed you, last year's winter, this year's winter. But because they also did the fall test this year, I can show you growth within the year. So last year, 6th grade, had 43% of their students proficient at this time. This year, we're at 45%. Those same 6th graders last year, this year are at 53%, so about a 10%
That's good.
increase from year to year. Last year, 7th graders, we had about 38% at this time. This year, it's 53%, but those same 7th graders as 8th graders are now at 45%. Again, different tests too, so it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, but an increase. And then you look state proficiencies and where we're at. Kuna Middle School is above the state averages on this same test. And then this just shows you the growth within the year. So 6th grade started at 17% at the beginning of the year. Now they're at 45, 33, 53, 15, 45. So you can see tremendous growth. And these scores are always going to be low at the beginning of the year because remember, this is an end of the year test we give at the beginning of the year. So kids don't know everything. So that's Kuna Middle School's growth in math. The next one is Kuna and Swan Falls. It doesn't include initial point. The SECA data doesn't help them that much because a lot of their students are below, and we already know that. So they've been piloting the iReady math that we do with our elementary and middle school. They've been piloting that for reading and math both to see how that works. So I don't have that data tonight because they're still piloting it, but we're hopeful that that might give us an option. So I'm excited they're piloting that. So the math department at the high school has both winter and then we can look at a fall to winter. So last year we were at 15, this year we're at 16. Last year's 9th graders to this year's 10th graders has grown. Last year's 10th graders to this year's 11th graders grew a little bit. But we're a little below, slightly above. So our story here has not changed a whole lot. Remember last year we talked about this and some of the challenges our 11th graders may not be in math classes anymore or because they're waiting to senior year. Or by the time they get to 11th grade, they're in their track, their pathway, and so they might not be taking a Math 3 class, which is the ISAT test goes all the way through Math 3. So we have not obviously solved that problem yet, because even though there's some increases, it's still not where we need it to be. But from beginning of the year, fall to winter, you can see the increase here by 9, 10, and 8%. So the work that we're doing within the year is good, but we still have things we got to figure out.
And
As
do
we said
seniors
last
not take these tests?
No, the hard part in high school is that only 11th graders take the ISAT. So you have that 9th and 10th grade year where we don't have any real checking except for this to see where they're at.
It used to be the 10th grade, now they're still.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think our scores show that we need to do something here.
yes.
And maybe part of that'll be because we're doing so well in the middle school area that as they move up, that knowledge comes up. I would like to see that.
We're definitely hopeful that that
Yeah,
bubble moves
I'm
up.
hopeful for that,
I also
but
would,
I'd like to see us do
Yes.
something there. to
we're
help
always
those
going to be
kids.
judged by the ISAT because that's our state testing. I would love to see a better tool for us to use in the, especially in those 9th and 10th grade years when they're not worried about an ISAT test. They probably aren't that worried about a SECA test,
Yeah.
right? I would rather have some monthly or some kind of a tool that we're monitoring regularly that gives us better information on how to adjust our instruction.
And I agree, whatever we get, I'd like to see us make sure that it's showing what our kids are capable
Yes.
of and where we need to improve. 'cause-
And they take the PSAT in the 11th grade, do we have data on that, that
Yeah, the
shows-
SAT, yes. The challenge with that, we can look at that data, but now Idaho doesn't require the SAT,
Mhm.
so we only get the data from the kids who choose to take it. Our data actually will show that our SAT scores have gone up,
Mhm.
because not everyone
Right,
takes it now.
right.
And that's misleading, so I'd love to share that story, but it would be a misleading story. In fact, when Idaho required SAT testing, we would look at the data and it would show that we were not performing very well, but we were up against states that didn't require it. And only the best students were taking it in their states, and we were comparing all of our students to them, so. Yeah. Okay, the next slide, we'll switch over to language arts now. Same thing with Fremont, it splits Fremont and Kuna Middle, or Fremont and Synergy. So last year's winner was 37, we're up to 42 and 59. Last year's 6th graders, this year's 7th graders. There's some growth of at least 6%, maybe higher, because this might bring that up overall. And then last year's 7th graders to this year's 8th graders, some really good growth there. And these are your state averages. So the ELA data, which we also have new curriculum in ELA, this is the second year of the ELA curriculum in middle school, seems to be showing some progress here too. Kuna Middle School's next. Again, they have both the 2 years of winter and then fall to winter. So 30 to 45 this year. Those same 30 were at 50 this year. The same 29 are at 47 this year. And then from beginning of the year to middle of the year, you can see huge growth. So you're seeing, we've made some changes to our curriculum and our instructional practices at middle school, and that's where we're seeing the most growth overall. So that's what you would hope to see when you make changes to curriculum. And high school ELA, they did not take the fall. They're doing it like Fremont, they only use it once a year. So I have last year's winter to this year's winter. So you can see 31 last year, 31 this year. Last year's 9th graders to this year's 10th graders, small increase. 10th to 11th, a small increase. So not quite as much movement at the high school, but overall, we're still moving in the right direction, but we are slightly below the state average in language arts. They also changed and had an adoption in language arts. We're not seeing quite the same effect, but you also again have that same high school dilemma of kids going to different pathways. You still have to take language arts every year, which helps, but they're focused on different things too. So. Anyway, this is the data. This is our winter benchmark data. There's lots of stories to be told. There's some really good movement and growth. There's areas that are still a concern, that have been a concern. But I like having the data, but like I said, we really do need a better system of assessing our student learning. We need a better tool, and then we also, like putting this data together, I literally go into the ISAP portal and screenshot this and put it on a spreadsheet so I can do my own calculations. The ISAP portal, the tool is not very helpful. It just gives you kind of big picture data. It would be great to have a better tool to analyze our data. Right now that tool, I think I said this last month, is Kelly Glenn. She puts together data reports for us. So that is something that I'm looking at as part of our PLC process too. We're looking at a better data analysis tool that will help us to be more effective and efficient with our data. So, anyway, I'll stand for any questions that you have. I know I've talked a lot, I'm sorry.
No, it gives us where we need to go, and I think that's important that we look at that as a board and as administrators and as a school district. Where do we need to go here?
Yeah, and it's a mixed story. There's some really good stuff in here too, and there's some things that we still gotta work on that. We gotta figure that out. So, all right, thank you.
All right, and I guess I'm up next for Down the Hill. Like Kevin said, they kept saying we need to tell our story. I'll just say, for me, it was a sad day on the Hill. And without going into all the politics and what's involved, it's sad to see that every 2 years we have to go for a levy to get money. And yet they're so willing to give private schools with vouchers the $50 million. And so as a board member, as a former educator, as a parent, it was just sad. And I feel bad really for rural schools because they're really gonna be hurting this coming year. So that was hard. We knew that bill was gonna pass. That was a hard part of the day on the Hill. Good things though, you mourn the loss and then you go, what are we gonna do to make it better? That's what we do. And one of the things that I took a class on was tying our strategic plan to our agenda. School districts that are doing that are showing huge correlations between their test scores going up because they're all on a pathway of what they want to do. So I kind of brought that back and would like to see us put some strategic plans in our agenda. What does this mean when we talk about benchmark data? Which strategic plan are we looking at to keep us on course? Yeah, there you go. And then the other thing is, I was really excited because we have also come up with our supporting learning environment, which is our own board motto and what we want to see done. So I think we're headed down that right pathway. Another thing that came up, and it has not passed that I know of, is they want to redo the funding program. And right now, after I've talked with Brad, it sounds like we're okay if this bill goes through. But some of our rural school districts are really going to be hurting. And there's going to be a couple years that they will fund them, but then after that, I don't know what's going to happen. So you might want to keep your eye on that. So D on the Hill is good to go, and just find out what's coming down the pipe and what we're going to have to take a look at and what we're going to have to do. So that was some of the things that occurred. Yeah, so the funding, I want to see how that's going to go. Do you guys have any questions?
Are you talking about the funding that is like at a certain amount for students that are not with special education and then more
Yeah, they're
based
gonna
on,
they're
like,
redoing the funding, yes, the whole funding program of what we
For the
get.
formula.
Yeah, the formula is what they're looking at.
And tell me, I just don't know, like, why would that hurt the rural school districts more than another school district?
Because, and maybe Brad would be willing to talk to this, do you wanna?
Yeah, so when they're changing, it's the general discretionary part of the budget, so it's not the biggest part of the overall budget, but it's still a healthy chunk. And what they're doing is they're proposing, Critchfield is proposing the ratios based on student needs so that the money follows the students. So for special education, originally her proposal was for that part of the formula would be 2 times their normal allocation, and that's since come down to 1.5 times. We'll see over the next week or two what actually gets approved. So if you have a certain ratio, if you have a certain number of those students, whether it's special education, English learning, whatever it might be, there's several different categories. If you have a higher percentage of those in your school, in Kuna, we do have more special education, so we're gonna get more of that allocation. Some of the rural districts who don't will get less because the money is following the needs of the students. And so they tried to stop the smaller districts from losing too much, and so they've reworked the formula over time, and that's helped them out. But there's still some of those smaller districts that will still get a little bit less than they would have under the old formula for that discretionary portion. We, of course, the bigger districts like us, West Ada, Boise, will get more.
So, yeah, so just across the board, I always feel for education in Idaho. I think it's important that we look at everybody. And the same with the voucher bill that went through. You know how hard it is to get a levy passed. And so that's the way I look at it. And I'm like, but yet you're taking this much money so that they can have their own education from taxpayers. So to me, that kind of bothered me a little bit. And there's other things I feel, but that's the main thing is, why are you not funding us a little bit more? And so that makes me sad because we can only get so much, you can only squeeze so much out. So anyway, but on a happy note, I'd like to see us do some things that maybe will help with our strategic plan and moving along so we have a roadmap. And so I thought that was really a good class to take. It's always fun to be with our administrators, so I enjoyed that. And then we also got to meet our legislators again, and that's always fun to do, and just to get that relationship with them. So that's it on Day on the Hill, unless you guys have any questions or anything.
And
Okay.
so this designation on the agenda this time is to do with that, learning pillars, right? Or the strategic plan, I guess it's noting like student learning, strong relationships.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. So that's what we're trying to do. I think it's just important for us to see that as we go along,
Got it.
type thing. Okay. Do we have any patrons who signed up to address the board?
We do.
Okay. And I guess we have Principal Reno and Director Vickers and Mr. Travis Edwards, or maybe one person to tell us what's going on
You left me.
with the land. Yeah, with the land lab.
Yeah, just Chairman Nixon and School Board. Just a quick update to put it right in front of you. Right now, as we speak, there is a group over at Kuna High meeting to talk more about the fundraising, and so that has been really in the process. We've had a site plan developed, and then we are revising that site plan with the architect and looking at the putting together a 3D plan as well, so it's very visible to see. We've got a meeting, I believe, lined up for next week to meet with the city to get that worked out. And so I'm hopeful that by next board meeting, 5 weeks from now, that we'll be able to come and present a lot of stuff to you. But the advisory board for the FFA and the fundraising board, they've been really working hard, putting some plans together to, once we get a lot of this visual stuff put into place, and to be able to go to Stimplot's and AgriBeef and different larger organizations, talking to people about financial contributions or even services and supplies. We tried to, we addressed sustainability and talked about what do we need to be sustainable for years to come to keep that rolling. So those are all talking points that we've had, and like I say, they're meeting right now to have those discussions as well.
That was Travis meeting with the.
That's Travis right now, meet with him. So.
I just wondered, when I looked at this, I wondered if there's a possibility of like an endowment fund that maybe, a farmer is getting out and they want to do some, leave some money to, is there an opportunity that would be an ongoing, endowment fund?
I think they're talking about a lot of different options. They're a pretty wise group of guys and the people there that are involved in this process, and a lot of ideas that I hadn't even considered. And so, like I say, as we start putting things together, we also talked about as the plan, putting it together. The first thing we want to do is be able to get kids to be able to start raising animals in this. So if we have to start a little slow and at least put the pens out and a cover, we're going to start in that area with what we've got. But they are extremely confident that we are going to be able to raise enough, the money to do it. I've been able to look at a similar project that's diesel related, that from the same grant down in Burley, and see what they're doing. And they're running into a lot of the same things that we ran into, but to see what they're doing, who they're using as suppliers, and some of the donations that they've been given, and so giving us some resources there as well.
So basically, you're here to tell us we're moving along, and you'll have more information for us next month. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Yeah,
good.
and last time you were in my building,
Yeah.
in
yeah.
Kuna High, you asked how it was going.
I do. I always.
I
wanna
think
know.
I vented to you a little bit.
You did. You did.
Yeah, and
It's
so
always
there was
good.
no tears, but I vented
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah.
And so, there's a lot of frustration in just the process.
I'm really excited about this because I think it gives our kids who are not rural
Mhm.
a chance to do some things and open up an area for them, and that excites me.
Yeah.
So I'm, like you discussed, I'm looking forward to
So,
this.
I'm here so you guys don't forget me.
No.
And this whole process.
Yeah, no, we will not. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys have come up with. I think the endowment's a great idea too. So thank you very much. All right. All right, my favorite, capital plan update. Here we go.
Chairman Nixon, trustees. This should be pretty quick. We met our first meeting last night, and it was really just designed to be kind of a kickoff event and see who wanted to show up in the group and who was interested in this process. We shared this timeline. This is one of the slides we shared with them, based on some of your recommendations and feedback of, are we really kind of aiming for that November election date to get something on the ballot? And if we are, then this is kind of our backwards plan of that. So first meeting was last night, got the group together. I think we sent out about 50 calendar invitations, and I think we had 15 or 20 people show up.
That was all.
That's about it. So we would, there was some encouragement during the time to invite a friend, bring a neighbor. So we're hoping that other people will engage in the process as we get going and dig in. And we want the feedback from our community. So at the end of the day, that's what we need. We want to look at some of the numbers, and we kind of got a plan going forward of the things we'll talk about and the things we're going to dig into as we go over the next few months. And so I'll be happy to report back. You know, Trustee Thornton, if you had anything you wanted to share as well from last night.
Nope, I don't.
And just so people know, it's Trustee Thornton and then Trustee Bruce are gonna be the two that will be representing us there. So I definitely like to see some more people there, because the more people you have, the easier it is, and the more ideas and the whole thing. The more buy-in, the better it is. So, thank you. Any questions then? All right. So, Superintendent Grace and Director Kelly Schamber, want to give us an update on the Hubbard Annex?
Yeah, we met with Hubbard this morning as well, and then we met with both of our principals and our vice principals. So this is kind of our plan. If you click on that, I don't know if anybody needs the history. Obviously, we had to shut down the annex for the year, close it temporarily. We have the roof scheduled to be repaired this summer. That's with house bill money. That will return 10 classroom spaces to our grand picture of elementary. So our plan as of March right now is we're gonna add 5 general ed classes back. This is gonna allow our district to adjust to school zones at Reed and Silver Trail to bring about 100 to 125 more kids to Hubbard. This will help offset the two biggest elementaries, the two most crowded elementaries. Work we still need to do, obviously we're gonna need to officially adjust those school zones, give the message out to parents. We need to determine if these shifts are gonna affect any teacher transfers, or is this just going to be that growth that we've seen at the elementary level with the levy. Remember that one of the deciding factors was to add 6 teachers, so is this gonna be a part of that? And then lastly, we're gonna have some families that do open enrollment, so we're gonna have to work through those open enrollment. You might get a parent that's doesn't make sense to move their kid from 3rd grade to Hubbard, then they'll to Ross, so they'll file for open enrollment, and we'll go through our process for that. Hubbard Elementary is one of our 3 schools, at least 3 schools, that does not have a conference room. So this reopening the annex will give them back a conference room, so then a classroom will move out of the space that they lost for the conference room. And then the last 4 classrooms will be utilized for another ERR program. Right now in our district, we send all of our ERR kids either to Silver Trail or to Reed. Yes, to Reed. So now we'll have 3 different programs. So we'll kind of divide that program into 3 equal parts, but equal doesn't always, our fair isn't equal, or however you say that. So we've got some work to do there. We know that will cost some transfer of staff. Right now we have 3 ERR teachers at both the larger 2 elementary schools, so logically one of those each will go to Hubbard. And then with the kids that come typically they're one-on-one staff.
So it sounds like that's gonna alleviate some of our issues at the elementary a little bit type of thing. That's what we're hoping. That's my first comment. The second one is, how did Hubbard staff respond to this?
We do have the principal in there.
Andrea?
I would love for you to tell me, how was your responding?
I think it went really well. I think my staff was pretty gun shy after what happened last
That's
spring.
why I wanted to know.
But I think that everybody, as the day went on, everybody was like, okay, we can do this, this will be great.
Yeah. And I'm excited after going to Reed and Silver Trail to see another ERR program start up for that. So I'm glad that we'll be able to do that.
Andrea did a really great job of presenting to her staff this morning. She really did.
Well, thank you. So that was my
So
question.
do I hear you saying we're gonna do a 4th grade at Hubbard?
No.
So what we will have to have a 4th grade solution
Okay.
in 2 years. We bring over kids to be at Hubbard, they're gonna be K through 3.
Right.
At some point, they're gonna become 4th graders.
Okay.
So we're gonna need a solution for that. So that's not a March problem right now, but that's definitely gonna have to be a problem
And
to
if
solve.
5th grade, they would go to Ross.
That's a
Are you
possibility,
trying
absolutely.
to do
Could we have that program
Okay.
at Ross for 4th and 5th grade? do we look at some other solutions? We've got some time to solve
Okay.
that.
That's another thing I'd like to see maybe the capital plan look at. Do we need another elementary, to see this out? Right now, this could be a little Band-Aid, but what?
Little Band-Aid, absolutely.
Yeah, a little Band-Aid, but what can we see to be proactive? Maybe to have the community talk about that,
Yeah.
adding another elementary, because, we're gonna have to do something with these fourth graders. And,
So right now, the kids K through 3 at Hubbard go to Ross, so then there's not enough room at Ross for all these, is that what we're saying?
Yeah, no, we're just for the ERR program right now.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, when these students go to fourth grade, they'll go to Ross. So this will, in 2 years, this is going to increase the population of Ross as well. And right now, we think we're gonna be okay for that.
there's some rooms at Ross. but-
Yeah, and then, I know you talked about open enrollment, and things, but like if you have a kindergartner and families going to 2 different, like some in Silver Trail, some at Hubbard, I guess you'll take that into consideration.
Yep. And the sooner we can get the rezoning done, the sooner we can notify parents so they have a plan and then they go from there.
All right, any more questions for Brian? Thank you.
Shifting what,
Up
shifting
to
what I do.
asphalt.
Yeah, just with our process, remember that with larger projects, we need to come to you guys and at least ask permission to go out to bid. Remember we did the 10-year plan with the House Bill money, and the next project that had the most pour or replace was everything asphalt, from parking lots to walkways to playgrounds to blacktop, however you refer to that. Doing some fast research, looks like we did our parking lots last in 2019. The blacktop, the pathways, the playgrounds, we haven't done since I couldn't find anything before 2016. If you walk a few of our playgrounds, Hubbard's playground on the back, if you just scrape your foot a little bit, you start to kick the gravel. It's starting to turn to gravel. Those of you that ever been to a game at Kuna Middle School, and you have to walk through that parking lot right near, that parking lot has passed. We couldn't re-asphalt that parking lot. That parking lot went too long, and now we'd have to just completely redo it. So our request is to go out to bid to, we believe this project's gonna be obviously over that 150 threshold of asking, so we need to tell you guys that we'd like to go out to bid for it, and then we'll bring the bids back, and we'll go from there. But we would like to crack fill and then make any replacements that we need, repairs, and then re-asphalt and then repaint. We don't repaint like the world maps or the hopscotch. We repaint like the parking spots, all the major lines.
And then like for Kuna, do we just need to tear it up and leave
Well, the Kuna Middle, we would
That's
have
right.
to, yeah. So I know we got some feedback on, do we do an alternate bid of like what would Kuna Middle cost to replace that? And then another alternate bid that was requested by, do we look at what would it cost to add parking at Kuna High? Just so you
Yeah.
guys have all that information.
And that was my request, I think, when you're going to bid, if you could find out.
Ask for that as an alternate,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And so you would get these in a bid individually by school, right?
In the past, we did it as a project, so it was the whole entire project. That company bid for the entire district.
Seems like if they could break it out, it might be nice, because what if we can't afford to do all of it? Then
So
we'd
maybe more like a menu, so you would see
We'd
all
be
the
able to
prices.
make a decision based on the need.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, and then tearing up Kuna Middle, that would be separate, right? Or-
Yeah, that would be an alternate to the bid, so like depending on if
Okay.
this came back, like, I don't know, let's say we thought it was gonna cost us $100 to do all this, and it came back at only 60, then do we add a couple other things?
Okay,
It's gonna be a little bit more than that.
of course it is.
The only project that they rated us for some reason was Indian Creek parking lot was fair, all the others was rated poor or replace.
You mean initial point?
Remember the definition fair meant minor, signs aware, no
Yeah.
disruption of use, observation recommended, repairs should occur.
I thought you said Indian Creek, and I thought that's it.
Oh, initial point.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah. I might
double
have said
checking
Indian
that.
Creek. And then poor, remember, was major, effective
Yeah.
use, corrective action should be taken at once, maintenance will restore to a usable condition. And then replaces hopefully all these.
Yeah.
So we're requesting to go out to bid.
So I need an
The
action.
request is up at the top. Request to go to bid for all KSD asphalt blacktop to get crack filled, repaired, resurfaced, and everything.
Would you like to put into that action that we would like it bid out separate, but together so we know?
And in addition, bid additional parking at the high school.
Yeah. So do I have a motion to make a bid? So. they
Make a
can-
motion
Sorry.
to go to bid for all the Kuna asphalt and blacktop to get crack filled, repaired, resurfaced, and repainted using the House bill money and itemized by school and project, and in addition, add a bid for additional parking at Kuna High School.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any more discussion? All right. Kirsty,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Hillary,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right. And now we're looking at House Bill project update. And it's
Yeah.
Superintendent, Assistant Superintendent, Brian Graves again.
So I'm gonna ask for the request, then I'll explain why I'm asking, then I'll ask again. So we're requesting to accept the lowest responsive bid for phase one of Indian Creek HVAC fire alarm, phase one of Ross HVAC fire alarm, and Kuna High School HVAC fire alarm project. If you click on this next slide. So just so you guys are aware, responsive bid, so Bennington Construction Company, that's our project manager, and they do all the bid process for us. Then they take all the bids that they get, and then they decide if they're responsive or not. To be responsive, the company has to be able to do the project, licensed to do the project, bonded to do the project, and insured to do the project. So fast version, I've used this joke a couple times. Jason and I decided this summer we just want to do some HVAC projects on the side, and we bid $50,000 to do all three of those projects. They wouldn't accept our bid, because we are not, he may be able, we're not able, we're not licensed, we're not bonded, and we're not insured. So the only bids that we get back are those responsive bids, and then we have to accept the lowest responsive bid. The pre-bid meeting for Indian Creek and Ross was last Wednesday. They had 12 different electrical companies and/or HVAC companies that came to the pre-bid. They were super excited about the attendance. The bid deadline and reading for this happened at 4 o'clock today, so I couldn't have those bids ready for you today because we had to post, we had to have the bids in the packet. However, Bennington is extremely worried about us waiting 5 weeks to bring you those responsive bids and show you that we are requesting you accept the lowest. They're worried because we lose out on work time, ordering time, lead time, planning and meeting time for those companies. We lose 5 weeks. The high school on Monday is the pre-bid meeting, and then the 20th over break, I'll get those bids. So for the high school, we'll lose 15 days, and the high school is the monster of a project. They said those 15 days alone, it would put them back. So they're asking, instead of me showing you the responsive bids and then showing you which is the lowest, we're requesting, if you click on the next slide, that you accept the lowest responsive bid, and then in April, we'll come and show you which bids were responsive and which one was the lowest that we accepted, so we don't lose those 5 weeks or those 15 days.
I make a motion that we accept the lowest bid for the following projects. Phase one of Indian Creek HVAC fire project, phase one of Ross HVAC fire alarm project, phase one of Kuna High School HVAC fire alarm project.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any more discussion?
Well, since there was a fire today, I mean, there's no problem with that.
It does need to take place.
There's a leaky air conditioning.
You don't even have to say anything.
I just have one question. Like, I think that this is great. I feel like if I get a bid to do something at my house, different things are included in all, whatever contractor bids one. So I just feel like clearly they're gonna compare apples to apples, right? Like, whether there's a follow-up or a warranty, they should be equal type
Absolutely.
comparisons for that.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? All right, Kirsty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Hillary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. All right. And now we have Cam Elwood to talk to us about district service and storage devices.
Chairman Nixon and trustees, you want to hit the next slide there? Thank you. We have some servers and storage devices that are gonna be hitting end of life and end of service here soon. So we need to get those replaced because they will no longer be getting security updates or service. They'll be unsafe. What do? The storage ones keeps our staff and student data, like spreadsheets, PDFs, all that stuff. And the servers run our district services and applications, things from print servers, SPED programs, what else do we have? Our network servers, our phones. These are very core systems to our network infrastructure. And then how we're intending to pay for it is we intend to utilize our rollover fund. A few months back, I believe we went over that in pretty good detail. But we set aside money from our ESSER fund, from the ESSER funds and our unspent over the years, to put aside for these bigger purchases. This will probably come in over $75,000, which is why I'm here presenting to you guys to get the approval to go out for quotes.
I make a motion that we approve to go out for quotes on servers and storage devices.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All right. Kirsty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Hillary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and now we're up to our lovely evening of policy reading. Here we go.
I understand there was like a electrical problem, so the basketball game was delayed, so I got some time here. So anybody was worried about getting out of here early, I was gonna take my time. The first three are amendments, second read. If you would like me to show you the things that we changed upon your guys' request, I can go through them.
I think we do have some feedback from parents for 518, is that, oh no, we're on just A.
Yeah, just the amendments.
Sorry, I'm going ahead.
I'll make a
Any
motion
question?
that we amend 308, 502, and 678.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion or questions? All right, Kirsty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
JD?
Aye.
Hillary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. And now, let's move right on to that next one. All right, I know that we've had some
Go ahead and click on it.
input.
Do you want me to
from-
remind you the changes? that
Yeah,
came
go ahead and
up,
make the
kind of?
changes and then we'll talk about some
So if you
input we've got.
slide down slowly, one of the suggestions we got was that some statement about substitutes. So we added that to instructional time PCB prohibitions. Substitutes and guest teachers are expected to follow the school rules and KSD policy. We actually would like them to do that with all rules, not just cell phone, but this is specific to cell phone. Remember, we missed the slash there. If you scroll down just a little bit. Keep going. Right here, we talked about pickup in the device in the front office. Administrators all agreed that a plan will be made with the administration or designee and the parent guardian to pick up the device. Probably 90% of the time that's gonna be in the front office, but that way if mom or dad are on vacation, say they leave their kid home alone, maybe there's a plan they can make. Scroll down, I'm sorry.
Middle school.
So one of the suggestions was to break out elementary and middle school by the levels of consequences. Our administration, again, wanted us to remind everyone that these are two things at the elementary and middle school we've been doing for the last 2 years, and they've had great success, and they're still requesting it to stay the way it has been the last 2 years. I'll finish up and I'll let you guys do all your discussion. If you scroll down this part, again, a plan will be made, a plan will be made. One of the suggestions was 4 consequences. They'd rather have 3. Mr. Reno reminded us that he met with his parent advisory team and met with his teachers, and this was the plan that they had to come up with. And he would really like to try it first before it's changed. So those were the only changes we made based on the last meeting.
I know that we've had some input from community members, and I think I've tried to update all the board members here so that they've been able to read those letters from people. So now's the time to bring those up. The latest one that I had to do with the middle school that came today, and that they were concerned about backpacks out in the hallway and students taking phones. So I think that that's one thing we need to take a look at. I did talk with Shelley from Kuna Middle School about that, and is she still here? I don't mean to put you on the spot, but do you want to tell us kind of why those backpacks are out in the hallway and why they're there and how many are really out there at one time?
Yeah, so we just have 2 classrooms that the teachers have their backpacks out in the classroom, or out in the hallway. And it's because they have groups in their class, so they move around, and so they didn't want the backpacks to get into the way of their class moving and being active in the classroom. And so we know it's safe out in the hallway because we have cameras on the backpacks at all times. And so we don't have cameras in the classrooms. And so if another kid goes to a different backpack, you probably would notice it less than it being out in the hallway. But like I told you guys, this is not a hill we're gonna die on. If parents want the backpacks in the classroom, we'll work with them on that. We're fine with it. It
Yeah.
was easier for teachers.
I just think it's important for us to know and discuss that. I personally think you told me you had never had an issue at this point. Tim, have you had an issue with any cell phones being stolen at this time?
No,
And you have backpacks out in the hallway too?
we do.
Okay, same thing,
We've
They're-
never, in the 7 years I've been there, we've never had anything stolen out of a backpack in the hallway.
And are they in the hallway for the same reason?
Yeah, we don't have lockers and it's a safety issue, you know, if the backpacks are in the aisleways, you know, and teacher or students are trying to walk up and down, that it's a safety tripping issue. And so, but yeah, we've never had an issue with backpacks going out in the hall.
I guarantee parents don't know that there's a camera on it. It's safer in the hallway
and
than it
that's
is in the
what,
school.
yeah, and that's what we found out. So, I mean, I think that's important for us to take a look at as we read that letter, but I think looking at it, they're safer out there, and we've never had an issue, so at this point, I think our policy is still good. The letter did say too, the person did say that they really are not wanting cell phones, you know, they want them out the instructional time, so.
They're just concerned about the fact.
Yeah, and I think if that, and I think we talked about this earlier, case by case, if that were to happen, we can definitely relook at some things and take a look at redoing some policy, but I don't know if that's it.
Yeah, and I don't think this policy can cover every scenario, so I think like a parent may need to make a special arrangement with the administration of their school about what's gonna be the best for that individual student or the family or something, but I think as a general rule, this still works.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
I make a motion that we adopt policy 518.
There's a couple more things that people brought up.
Yeah, so that we can, one of them that I know, one lady was very upset with the watches being taken away and off the kids' wrists. And I don't know if she really read the policy to see what it says, but we're not advocating that we're gonna rip watches off kids or take them. And if I remember correctly, and Hillary, you wrote a letter back to her.
If you guys click on it, we can show you where it's said about.
Yeah,
Yeah, so she just she did read the policy and she felt like it wasn't clear that smartwatches were still going to be allowed to be on a student in the elementary school, and I wanna just kind of bring that up to make sure that that's what we intend, that smartwatches are allowed to be on in elementary schools as long as they're muted, powered down. Like, for instance, they're talking about like a school mode on a
To
gizmo
me, that would
watch.
be muted, right?
I
yeah,
think that's muted, and so to me, that's what that means, and I just wanted to see if that's what that means to everyone else.
it does to me too. I think that we cover that.
Okay,
So I think,
That's what I understand it
Okay.
to read.
yeah, me
Yeah.
too,
so I think that she's
Yeah, that was a
fine
great
as long as
response to
that
her,
is
yeah.
the way it is, so.
yeah. Was there anything else that came up that you guys wanna ask about?
Not about this specifically, no. I think this covers what.
Okay,
you know.
and I'm happy with the administration, the way they have it written, so I'm good. Because I also know that we can tweak this. And we can come back and we can do it again, but I really am happy with what we have here for our school district and the students. So,
I think we'll learn a lot as soon as all of this goes into play and we can adjust as needed.
Yeah,
like you said.
I agree. So now, do I have a motion?
It's already on the table.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Okay, Kirsty?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Judy?
Aye.
Hillary?
Aye.
And I'm an aye too, so we'll move right along there.
First reads, there's 2 policies for amendment. I stand for any questions for first read.
I did have some on this, hold on, I gotta bring it up. Sorry, it keeps kicking me out of here, so.
Are you talking about 310?
I had something down at
Okay.
310. So I'm looking here. So is this administrative personnel and principal?
Yeah.
Because some of it talks only about administrative personnel, and then some talks about both. Yeah, I saw that, but then if you go down, the board adopts this policy for administrative personnel performance evaluations.
So that would be like Kevin,
And
myself.
they took out principals, so is there a
I think
different?
there's 2 sections.
Is that why there's 2 sections? Then I wanna make sure I know.
Are you talking about the first paragraph?
In the
Yeah.
first paragraph.
Yeah.
In the first paragraph,
It just talks about administrative personnel. Is that the principal? So I was just kinda confused because they took the principal out. Or is the principal covered elsewhere that I wasn't seeing?
And then should there be like a definition for administrative personnel?
Well, that,
since there's
if
one
they
for
wanna do it
principal?
that way, I'd be fine with that if that's what they wanna do.
Yeah.
So. I just thought there were some things to do with that.
Like, I guess if we're adding principal at the top, then we need to add it throughout. Is
Well, either that or, like you said, make
that- Make a definition.
a
of what-
definition.
Mhm.
Do you want to brought back for a first read again with that, or for a second read?
I'm fine with the second read on that. I think there was a. 1, 2, 3, was there something about student achievement in here? Sorry, guys.
It's hard to keep track of everything.
I know, and I have written in my smallest handwriting, of course.
To scroll down on the scroll down.
Is it 4? Maybe that was a different one. I've got
For proficiency and
reading or
recognition.
using because one student achievement. Something about student achievement determined by the Board of Trustees, and I didn't know that we could determine student achievement. That, now I can't find it.
This is just.
Oh, here it is. Any changes to the district's evaluation model will be approved by the Board of Trustees and submitted. So that's true. That's not what I was talking about. Well, guys, let's just go with the principal because I can't find it now.
Is it right there?
Student achievement right there, if you wanna read that section.
teachers' data as determined by the board of.
Is that it? Okay. Okay. Student achievement, trustees, yeah. So is that something we do?
Typically, you set a goal for our superintendent, and then our superintendent,
Yeah, but this is,
with student achievement, it's
so,
for
but
the
through
entire
the
district.
superintendent we do, but do we do it on this too?
Ultimately, you guys do
Okay.
all, so yes.
Okay,
But our student achievement is based on the goals you set for the superintendent.
for the
and she
superintendent, okay.
Trickles down.
We can always make adjustments too, since this is just the first read.
It is, so, yeah, I just think I have a little more confused about the principal thing,
Okay.
so.
Do you want the definition for?
I don't, however you wanna do it, definition or just put principal, one of those others, I think
Just
it
since
just
we added
clear.
it in the title,
Absolutely.
clarify it in the body.
Yeah, and to us, this is the evaluation for principals and for district staff such as like Kevin, me, Kelly, Jason, Brad, and Allison.
That was the only one I had.
So we need to make a
And-
motion to accept 310 and 852.
Correct, do I have a motion for that?
I make a motion to, pass the first reading of policy 310 and 852.
Second,
Does 310 have changes?
yeah, with the change.
With the
Yeah, I'll bring it
changes.
back in a second.
All right, and any more discussion? All right, Hillary,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
Kirsty?
Aye.
All right. Now, the next one, field trip.
They're all adoptions.
So I do have some questions about, I have 576.2, parent guardian consent. Is this a form that we send out to all of our students? Or just for field trips, or,
For 576.2?
yeah, 576, did I say the wrong thing?
Well,
Sorry.
that's, I'm just wondering.
576.2, if you go down, this, right here, is this the student name? Keep going. Is this something that's filled out by, or is this just in a
This is your
policy?
parent or guardian
So
consent
when-
form to go on a field trip.
So every field trip we do, this is what's sent out to them, or does each school have its own thing?
This would be this is our procedure that we are,
So this will be
Yeah.
implemented in.
so that way it's
Okay.
universal.
And it gets sent to the parent or the student?
Parent.
Parent.
The parent.
Parent is giving consent for the
Okay.
student to go on.
Right. So I just wanted to make sure, because I've seen different field trips for different schools from different, so I,
It's crumbled.
just trying to figure out if this is now going to be the one that we use throughout.
And this is part of that, trying to have what was procedures in the handbook and trying to get it all universal so parents aren't seeing different things in different places.
And
For the
then,
most part, you're only gonna see this at the high school level. Your big extended field trips, your,
okay, that's what I wanted to know. So is this something that the elementary is gonna be using? That's my
if they
question.
get to go ever, like Moss might be an example of a extended field trip at the elementary level, but there really isn't that.
So
many
this is
of
just
them.
for the extended, the field trip type thing?
Correct.
Okay. Then going back to 576.1, they talked about meds. A volunteer chaperone is able to give meds or not give meds, or how's that work? I was just double checking on that. So if you go down guidelines.
May not administer medications.
May not.
Okay,
I think that's the way we want it, right?
right, but then who does administer them? The teacher?
The non-volunteer.
I don't know, I'm just
Yeah,
trying to figure out,
hopefully, yeah.
the non-volunteer.
Typically, I guess if you're gonna have to give out medications, it's gonna have to be a person that's able to and approved to give medications.
So does someone go on the field trips always?
If a
That's
student would
approved?
need medication to be given to them, we would have to have someone there.
Okay.
Or a parent would have to be there.
sometimes it's for the parent. Does it need to be clarified in there that it will be administered with someone?
Well, we would never send students with just volunteers, am I right?
No.
So this
I
is
hope
just
not.
like a volunteer parent that's like coming as a chaperone.
This is just telling what they
Yeah.
can, this
Yeah.
policy is specific to volunteers,
Okay.
chaperones.
So, and, I think
I have something on 681.1 if you're
681, go ahead.
Just feedback that we received on this, was specifically about the student safety section.
Which one?
681.1.
Okay.
Just a second. So, the conversation about the feedback was that we shouldn't necessarily just assume that they need additional safety based on their identity, or that they would be bullied. My suggestion would maybe be to have a checkbox that says like NA, and so that we don't have to fill this out if it's not an issue. I feel like that's a good way to move forward on it. But like in this particular instance, the person said that there was somebody who was somebody that dealt with an identity change that was the bully of another person. So, we shouldn't just assume that these particular individuals need extra safety. So I think just having, or that they would be bullied. So I think having an opt-out from that section with an NA might be a good option to not have to, so that you can leave it blank if it's not needed.
So we can work on that for second read.
That's fine with me.
Perfect.
I make a motion that we accept, about the first readings, the policy 576.1, field trip volunteer chaperone guidelines, 576.2. Can I just say the numbers?
Go for it.
That's what I did.
576.3, 681.4.
I'll stick that to you.
639.1, 639.3, 639.4, 736, 770.
Second.
All right. Do I have a second? Thank you. And any more discussion? All right.
I'd like to just suggest that we make that change for 681.1 for the
Second reading.
second reading.
Okay,
Was there a change in 310, principal evaluation?
310, yep.
Yeah,
Okay,
310.
Those are my two.
okay,
I got homework.
all right. And Kirsty,
aye.
Michael,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
and Hillary,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. All right. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
All right, do I have a second?
I'll second.
And, Kirsty,
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
JD,
Aye.
Hillary, and I'm an aye.
I'm sorry, but I forgot to say something. Is it too late to do that? I wasn't.
Depends on what it
realizing-
is.
Okay, I'm sorry. Somebody, like, there was feedback that I think, Brian was part of this. Is this 407.5?
407.5,
That
yep.
we needed to make a change to, that would describe it as benefited employees. I think this was an employee that brought this up.
Yep. Right there.
Okay,
So instead of for certificated employees, it'll say for benefited employees for third read. I'll bring it back.
okay.
Okay.
And that, it's just telling you that we can accrue our sick days, but only certified employees and full-time benefited classified employees can. It means if you have 10 sick days, the next year you've carried those over and only those people, and so that needs to be updated. We got the feedback and I've already got it ready for next time.
Okay, great.
Do we
I
need
didn't
to
want
amend that motion then, or are we just okay with that? Or how's it okay? Okay.
Okay.
That brings us to the good of the order. And so, just want to remind everybody that we have a good governance and continuous improvement. Part 2 will be April 8th. And is it 5:30 we decided on? 5:15. So mark your calendars. And that'll be Phil Gorgon who'll be coming and talking to us about that. And then they have a Leadership Institute, ISBA does May 2nd, 2025. So with that being said, do I have a motion to adjourn tonight?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
I love it. And
Aye.
Michael,
Aye.
and JD,
Aye.
and Hillary,
Hi.
and I'm an aye. And thank you for coming, guys.
BYU winning?
Thank you.